Wickham shows up dead, which, let's be honest, none of us were really that upset about. I just wanted to lay in bed with a cup of tea. Very adorable, very, very adorable. By the end of the second book, I was screaming out loud, come on, why? That flies under the radar. We have the Darcys, we have the Tilneys, Brandons, absolutely obsessed. Hello friends, welcome back to a Very Bookish Vlogmas, where I am diving into my 2023 reading challenge. My goal was 50 books. I have hit that and surpassed that. I'm still reading. I'm going to be talking about the books I loved, the books that I didn't love, things that surprised me, tropes that maybe I'm done with, tropes I would love to see more of, and everything in between. Today we are going to be diving into a series that I absolutely adored. It is an incomplete series. There are more to come, and I cannot wait for the third book, which is coming out next year. If you need a rundown of my book rating system, then hop on over to that first video in this series, and I have a timestamp so you can find exactly where it is, and I go over kind of how I rate my books. Okay, without further ado, let's hop into this because I absolutely adored this series. It is called the Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney series. The first book was The Murder of Mr. Wickham. The second book was The Late Mrs. Willoughby. And the third book is called The Perils of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Hopefully I said that right. I always say it weird. Where do I even start with this series? You know what? Let me just read the synopsis for you because I'm going to butcher it otherwise. This series is by the author Claudia Gray. Claudia Gray has actually written a lot of Star Wars books, which is kind of funny because this series is so much different than any of those books, but absolutely obsessed. A summer house party turns into a whodunit when Mr. Wickham, one of literature's most notorious villains, meets a sudden and suspicious end in this mystery featuring Jane Austen's leading literary characters. Mr. Knightley and Emma are throwing a house party, and they invite some of Jane Austen's most notorious literary characters. We have the Darcys, we have the Tilneys, and the Brandons, and some more other people that I can't think of right now. But mostly I adore the young Mr. Darcy and the young Miss Tilney. Very adorable. Very, very adorable. Absolutely loved it. So the first book, we have this house party, people are gathered, and Mr. Wickham shows up dead, which, let's be honest, none of us were really that upset about. Then the young Mr. Darcy and the young Miss Tilney decide to investigate the murder and figure out who done it. I wouldn't call myself a diehard Jane Austen fan, but I do love her. I've read Pride and Prejudice and obviously seen the movie with Keira Knightley because, come on, it's the actual best. I did read Northanger Abbey this summer. That was on my reading list. I do like her writing style. I think she is very brilliant, very snarky in a very subtle way, which of course, if you know me already, we love some good snark that flies under the radar. This was so fun to see some of our favorite literary characters from Jane Austen's novels in a new setting. It's a continuation of her stories, which I think she'd be pretty happy about, in my personal opinion. Here's what I absolutely loved about both of these books and what I'm super excited about in the third book. Obviously, back in that time, neurodivergence or being on the spectrum, autism, none of those things were really a thing. It wasn't really a thing. Well, Mr. Darcy, the young Mr. Darcy, definitely is on the spectrum in some way. You aren't told exactly, but based on how he acts, my guess is he's on the spectrum in some way or another. I loved that representation. He was such a fun character and just learned so much about how he thinks and how he sees the world. Miss Tilney was one of my favorite characters as well. She's so sweet and quirky. I just read Northanger Abbey, like I said, this summer. I felt a very keen connection to her because her parent story was very fresh in my mind. Now, I love a good slow burn, and let me tell you, if you want like the kind of slow burn where they don't even really touch at all in 2 books, then this is the book series for you. By the end of the second book, I was screaming out loud and I was like, come on, why? I just so desperately want the love interest to just be together already. But I have a feeling that I will get a good return on my investment on this one. So I love me a good slow burn. This is a slow burn to the max. I love that this is the epitome of a cozy murder mystery. It felt so warm. I felt like I was there. I just wanted to lay in bed with a cup of tea and enjoy the story. Very cozy. If you're looking for a cozy mystery, this series is definitely it. The second book, which I will touch on really quickly, is called The Late Mrs. Willoughby. Again, it's another whodunit mystery. We've got a party that's being hosted, and Mrs. Willoughby, a young Mrs. Willoughby, ends up, and Miss Tilney and Mr. Darcy decide once again to figure out who done it. It's more of the same, warm, beautiful, just absolutely, I don't even know what to say. Mr. Darcy and Miss Tilney are adorable. I love them. I love how quirky they are together. I love how awkward they are together, but I also love how smart they are and how they decide to solve these mysteries. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So I really encourage you to check it out. Both of these I listened to as an audiobook, and Chef's Kiss, again, narrator was wonderful. This series definitely gets a 5-star for me. These will be books that I will be purchasing and putting on my shelf, probably rereading and annotating, because that's how much I loved this series. Well, friend, that's all I have for today. I would love to hear, did you read this series? Did you listen to this series? What do you think? If this is a series you would love to try out, I encourage you to download that Libby app. Again, if you don't have the Libby app or your library card, you are seriously missing out. All you need for the Libby card is for you to run down to your local library, get a library card, download this app, and you have access to hundreds of thousands of audiobooks, magazines even, and books that you can read on your phone or Kindle, whatever that looks like for you. Get the Libby app. Try this out, and please meet me in the comments. Let me know, what do you think? Would you read this book? Have you read it? What were your thoughts? Love to know. Anyways, I will see you soon. Bye.